Take your Bibles, turn to the book of 2 Samuel, chapter number 19. 2 Samuel 19 in my own up here. The green light's on. 2 Samuel 19, I sure do appreciate the opportunity to preach from Pastor Cody. This wasn't the message I was wanting to preach tonight. What I was really wanting the Lord to let me preach was out of 1 Samuel, chapter number 22. I was reading there last night, and I saw something in the text, and I started reading it, and I started studying it, and I was wanting to preach that, but the Lord didn't want me to preach that. And what I was going to preach was about these, you don't have to turn there, 1 Samuel 22. It's about all these men that were in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented. And so they took David over, a captain over them. And man, I started thinking about whenever we're in distress, and about how we have a captain over us who can help us in our moments of distress. The Lord started talking to me and speaking to me about the times that I've gone through trials and I've gone through heartaches. And I didn't know what was going on. And even in my distress, I still had a captain over me who was there for me and spoke peace into my heart. When I didn't see a way through the storm, I found that there was a lighthouse somewhere that was telling me the direction to go in the middle of my distress. And I saw that they were in distress, and then I saw that also that they were in debt. And I started thinking about whenever I was in debt, Brother Roger, about I couldn't pay the debt that I owed, but thank God Jesus paid the debt on the cross of Calvary. When I couldn't pay my way to heaven, when I couldn't pay my way, thank God He came to me and paid it with His own blood, Brother Skip. Thank God for on the backside of Rockwell, when Jesus reached down to where you were and saved your soul. Hey, that Bible still says, for as much as you know that you're not redeemed with corruptible things, such as silver and gold, from your vain conversation received by the tradition of your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, as a lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world and was made manifest in these last times for me. We sing the song in the choir, He paid a debt He didn't know, and I owed a debt I could not pay. Thank God that I had a captain over me, that even in the debt of sin that I was in, and where I was in my pit of depression, and in the pit of the sin, and in the mire, and the nasty mire of sin in this world, thank God there was a Savior who came down to where I was and reached way down where I was and picked me up and put me on the solid rock. It said that they were in debt. It said that they were in distress, but it also said that they were discontented. That word discontented literally means that they weren't content. Nothing could make them content. Nothing in the world could fill the void in their heart like the captain could. And I remember whenever I was lost and I was trying everything in the world, trying to fill the nasty hole in my heart. But thank God whenever everything else couldn't satisfy me, thank God when the world couldn't do anything for me, thank God Jesus came to where I was and filled that hole in my heart. And now I have joy when they say I shouldn't. I have peace when it doesn't make sense. I have a still small voice who speaks to me in the troubles of life, and I thank God that I have a captain over me. But that's not what we're preaching out of. That's where I wanted to preach out of, but we're in 2 Samuel 19. We're way up here. Now we're going to bring it all the way back down to the ground here. 2 Samuel 19, I won't keep you long. 2 Samuel 19 and verse number 1. And it was told Joab, behold, the king weepeth and mourneth for Absalom. And the victory that day was turned into mourning unto all the people. For the people heard say how the king was grieved for his son. And the people gat them by stealth that day into the city, as people being ashamed steal away when they flee in battle. But the king covered his face, and the king cried with a loud voice and said, O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab came into the house to the king and said, Thou hast shamed this day the faces of all thy servants, which this day have saved thy life, and the lives of thy sons, and the lives of thy daughters, and the lives of thy wives, and of the lives of thy concubines, in that thou lovest thy enemies and hatest thy friends. For thou hast declared this day that thou regardest neither princes nor servants. For this day I perceive that if Absalom had lived and all we had died this day, than it hath pleased thee well. Now therefore arise, go forth, and speak comfortably unto thy servants. For I swear by the Lord, if thou go not forth, there will not tarry one with thee this night. And that will be worse unto thee than all the evil that befell thee from thy youth until now. Then the king arose and sat in the gate, and they told him unto all the people, saying, Behold, the king doth sit in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Israel had fled every man to his tent. The Lord gave me this message 2 years ago or something like that. I'll be honest, that's one of the main reasons of why I really wanted to preach out of 1 Samuel 22, is because I feel like that this is such an old message that I haven't really preached in a while, that I feel like maybe I hadn't studied enough. But the more I started pondering and the more I read yesterday and today, the Lord started speaking to my heart and telling me that this is what He wanted me to preach. Like I said, I was reading this text maybe 2 years ago, something like that. I can't even remember. And I was reading through this text, and the Lord started speaking to me out of this text, and I want to give you what He's given me tonight. We find that David's men are returning from this great battle. They have whooped these people. They have killed these people. They have won the battle. They are victorious warriors. They have won the battle, and they have won the battle for Israel and David. And these men come marching back into the town. They come marching back into the city, and they're happy. They're joyful. They're excited. They're wanting to tell the king what they've done. They say, King, we just killed all these people. We did exactly what you told us to do. We went out there, we chopped their heads off, we stabbed them. We absolutely whooped them and wiped them out. And they're coming, they're into the place, and they're rejoicing. I believe they're probably singing and shouting, and they're just having a good time in the Lord. And they come walking into the kingdom. They come walking into the city. And as soon as they walk into the city, they're looking for the king. They're saying, where is the king? We want to tell him about all this great stuff that we've done. We want to tell the king about the great and mighty things that the Lord hath done. They want to tell the king how the Lord delivered them into their hands so that they could kill them and so that they could win the battle. And they walk into the kingdom. They walk into the city to tell the king what they had done and tell the king how they had won the battle and they had won the war. And instead of being greeted by someone who was happy, instead of being greeted by someone who was excited and wanted to cheer them on, they walk into the kingdom and find King David is weeping for his son Absalom. They come into the city excited, and now they are depressed. They come into the city with joy, but now they are sad. The victory that day was turned into mourning. And when I was reading through this text, verse number 7, this is Joab talking. He said, Now therefore arise, go forth and speak comfortably unto thy servants. For I swear by the Lord, if thou go not forth, there will not tarry one with thee this night, and that will be worse unto thee than all the evil that befell thee from thy youth until now. As I was reading through this text, the Lord began to speak to me, and He began to talk to me. And I read this text, and the Lord says, you know what He told him in that text? You know what Joab told David in that text? He told David, David, you're just going to have to suck it up. David, you're just going to have to suck it up. I know your son's dead. I know you're going through something. I know you're going through a trial. But there's some people that are counting on you to have some joy for their journey, and they need you to speak comfortably unto them. David, you're just going to have to suck it up and keep on going on. And for the next couple minutes, I'd like to preach on this thought to your hearts real quick on suck it up. Just suck it up. And before I go any further on this message, I would like to say, I'm not being insensitive to anything that anybody's going through. I know we all go through trials and temptations. I know we all go through heartbreak in our lives. As a matter of fact, there's about everybody in here is probably going through something. There's either a death in the family, there's some type of sickness. This is Thursday night prayer meeting that we normally have. We have the prayer list. I'm not looking over the fact that you're going going through problems. We'll all face problems. We're all going to face trials. We're all going to face certain situations in our life. But we can't stay in the pit of depression that we're in. It's okay to be sad. Hey, it's okay to be upset about some things. But weeping endureth for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We are not called to stay depressed. We're not called to stay upset about what we're going through. But we are called to go through it and be sad about it when it happens. But we aren't called to stay there in it. But we're called to just suck it up and keep on going for God. That's what we're called to do. I remember when I got to middle school, I was one of the biggest guys in middle school. I know I'm pretty big now. But even in middle school, I was bigger than most of the rest of the guys. I was a little bit skinnier than I am now, because that was before I started coming to church, and that was before I became a Baptist. And the football coach, when I made it through seventh grade, and in eighth grade, Mr. Deese came to me and he said, "Zach, I want you to play football for us." And I said, "I don't know. I played flag football when I was real little." I said, "But I played baseball my whole life. I don't know one thing about football. I don't know how to play. I know the rules, but I don't know I don't know what to do." And he said, "I don't care." He said, "Just come out and practice." He said, "You'll probably be a linebacker." I said, "Okay." I said, "Absolutely." So I went out there, and instead of making me a linebacker, he put me on offensive line. And on offensive line, your job is to sit there and protect the quarterback. But it's not only just to sit there and protect the quarterback. Whenever you're on kickoff return, that's what it would be. Or whenever you're kicking the ball off, some of them had to stand there on the line. So whenever the kicker kicked the ball, you would run to try to tackle the guy that was receiving it. And man, I remember it was one of the first practices that we were actually tackling. We had like a scrimmage game going on. And I mean, the linebacker that we had, he wasn't big, but he wasn't small. He was kind of just in the middle of the road, but he had a lot of muscle on him. And man, I remember I took off running that line. I remember running to that guy, and all of a sudden, brother, I got blindsided by this fool. And I was running, and all of a sudden I got hit, and I fell on the ground. I couldn't breathe. I said, "Deese, I can't breathe. I can't breathe." And then I fell on the ground, and the guy that hit me, he started laughing. He said, "Coach, come help him. Come help him." He look at him. Why is he on the team? And I remember sitting there. I was about to die. I felt like. I remember laying there, and I was suffocating. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never been hit like that before. I'd never gone through anything like that, and I thought I was about to die. And I remember Coach Deese coming up to me, and he said, "Zach, what's wrong?" I couldn't even talk. I was so out of breath, and he knew exactly what it was. He said, "Zach," and he grabbed me by my shoulder pads and pulled me up. He said, "Get up and go to the line." He said, "Get up and go to the line. I'm walking. I can't breathe, and I'm about to fall. I'm about to fall on the ground because I can't breathe." He said, "Zach, stop acting like a baby and keep on going." And so, you know what that was? That was him trying to build up endurance in me. And what he told me was, "Zach, you can't just keep laying there and suffocating. What you got to do is just get up, suck it up, and keep on playing for the team." I had to preach on this thought to your hearts real quick on suck it up. I told y'all that what y'all got out of 1 Samuel 22 is a lot sweeter than what we're getting tonight. Just suck it up. 3 things that I'm going to show you real quick, and I'll be done. Number 1, why do we need to cheer up and suck it up? Why do we need to be cheerful? Why do we need to just get back up and keep on going on for the Lord? Well, number 1, because if you don't, your fellow Christians will get weaker. Your fellow Christians will get weaker. Look at verse number 2 with me. "And the victory that day was turned into mourning unto all the people. For the people heard say that day how the king was grieved for his son. And the people gat them by stealth that day into the city, as people being ashamed steal away when they flee in battle." These victorious men of war, these men who have just killed all these people, these men who marched out onto that battlefield unashamed, unapologetic. They were marching out there in the army, and they walked out there, and I mean, they kicked tail and took names, y'all. I mean, they wiped them out, and they were victorious. They won the battle, and they come back, and they find that the king was weeping. And it said the victory that day was turned unto morning. It said that they had a victory. But did you see what it said? It said that they acted like they stole, like people steal away when they flee in battle. They won the battle. And these victorious men of war act like disgraced fugitives whenever they walk into the kingdom. They act like disgraced fugitives, act like they lost the war, Brother Skip. These people just won the war, and now they're acting like they lost it. And I thought to myself, how many times have we as Christians supposed to be happy around people that are having good in their life, and they're going, I know we're supposed to bear one another's burdens. Don't get me wrong. I know we're supposed to do that. That's what we're supposed to do. But when all you do is sit there and talk about how bad your life is, and talk about how bad you got it, and how rough the devil's been on your back, and how you don't know where God is, and you don't know where Jesus is, and all you talk about is the bad, I promise you, you will make some people weaker in their Christian walks. I mean, let's be honest. How many times have we been having a testimonial service where God has just blown in this place, and God has just moved in the middle of it, and God has just magnified himself in here? We've been praising God and worshiping. The choir will get to singing about the blood and about heaven and about the God's glory, and we'll come down and someone will start singing about Jesus and how wonderful he is, and then about that time someone will stand up and start praising God, and the Lord starts moving amongst his people, and people start standing up and shouting, and about that time someone will stand up, preacher, the devil's really just been hard on me here recently. I know y'all are worshiping God, and I know y'all are praising him, and I know the Lord is wanting y'all to worship him and glorify him, but preacher, I just got to tell y'all my problems. I got to interrupt the whole service to tell y'all what I'm going through. I got to interrupt what God is doing just so I can tell what trial I'm going through. You know what that is? Pastor Cody said the other day, that's a spiritual dove hunter. Spirit of God's flying in here, and all of a sudden someone stands up with a 12-gauge shotgun and cocks that thing and shoots it. Shoots the spirit, and it falls down. And how many of y'all used to play duck hunt when y'all grew up? About that time that they're waiting on the dog to go and run and grab the duck and bring it back to you, like on the Nintendo. And I started thinking, that's what it is. You can be going through something, you can be living life, and God's really blessing you, and God's really doing something in your life. And about that time, Brother Zeke, I'm going to come up to you and just start laying it all on you. And start verbally vomiting all their problems on you. And like I said, we're supposed to bear one another's burdens, but there's only so many burdens someone can bear. And if you constantly are putting burdens on people, and you're talking to them and saying how bad your life is, why would they want to continue worshiping God? And don't even go for just saved people. Why in the world would a lost person who spends every Saturday night on a bar stool and says they're happy and says they have joy, why would they want what you got whenever you walk into work or school, whatever it may be, and you act all depressed and act like everything's wrong in your life, whenever the person who's a drug addict is actually happy with what they're going through? Why would they want that? Why would they want Jesus whenever all you do is pawn off on them a sorry Jesus and a God that makes them think that God can't do anything for them, like their drugs and alcohol and pornography or whatever else it may be? I found this, Brother Skip. I've had to separate myself from some of them people. It sounds terrible, but there's only so many burdens that I can bear. We all have our own problems, much less getting verbally vomited on by everybody else. We're supposed to bear each other's burdens. Y'all don't get me wrong. But when all that comes out is nothing good and nothing happy and nothing wonderful, I fear that they're not just asking for prayer, but they're starting to beg for attention. I fear that's what's going on in the church today, that they're not really wanting you to pray for them. They're not really wanting you to beg God and plead with God for them on their behalf, but they're just begging for attention and seeking everybody's attention so that they can all fall upon them. We all go through problems. We all go through troubles. We all are supposed to bear one another's burdens. We're supposed to weep with those who weep. That's what the Bible said. We're supposed to bear one another's burdens, and we do. That's why Brother John and Miss Amanda have the prayer nights that we have, and we come here and we hear preaching after preaching after preaching, message after message after message, and we come and we start praying about certain things. That's why we have Thursday night prayer meeting. We're at the prayer list. That's why we all started, because we're bearing one another's burdens. But when all it is no praise, but it's all problems, that's when it starts getting dangerous. And the fact of the matter is that some people beg for attention for so long that they actually start thinking that what they're saying is true. Because they got a paper cut, they say the devil is attacking them. When in reality, that was just them being careless by grabbing the piece of paper the way they did. And they actually will start to think that every little inconvenience is the devil being upon them, that it'll start putting thoughts in their minds where instead of it being what they're just saying, it becomes a reality in their mind when it's not even true. I think it was in 2020, that big explosion over there in Beirut. How many of y'all remember that? I mean, it was huge. It looked like a nuke went off over there. I remember when all that happened. I remember waking up that morning, and I think Mike back there, my stepdad, showed me the video. I remember seeing. I thought it was fake at first. I said, "My goodness!" But it turned out to be real. I remember seeing all the videos of the destruction that went on there, and all the problems that was going on there. I mean, buildings were demolished. Stuff had been blown up. I mean, people's houses destroyed. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they're still cleaning up from it, Brother Roger. And I remember watching a video one time, and I believe it was the morning that we were going to the men's home. I was going to preach this message that morning, and I remember watching all that go down. I remember going to the men's home that morning, and when I think I was riding, I just happened to get on my phone, and I saw a video, and it was someone videoing the destruction. It was someone videoing this house that had been, it wasn't destroyed, but the windows had been blown in. I mean, there was stuff flipped over everywhere, wreckage everywhere. I remember watching it, and there was some music playing over it. I just thought someone put some soft piano music over it. And I remember watching it, and this person was videoing, and about the time they got right here, off in the distance, you could see an elderly lady. And in the midst of all this trouble that was going on in life, it's her house. Her house has been destroyed. She has lost everything, Brother John. She's lost all of her livelihood. Everything that she's worked for her whole life, she has now lost it. And in the middle of all this trouble and in the middle of all these trials, the camera pans over here, and she's sitting behind her piano. And she's just sitting there playing a soft song in the middle of all her trouble. The problems are still there. It's still destruction everywhere around her life. But she knew that if she'd have sat there and in the middle of all of it, she would get so upset and get so depressed. But she made her mind up that she wasn't going to sit there. And in the middle of the trouble that was going on, in the middle of losing absolutely everything, she just knew that she was going to sit down and just play a little song on the piano. And I'm here to tell you tonight that even though you're going through trials, even though you're going through troubles, even though you're going through stuff in life, make your mind up that you're not going to sit there in it, that you're not going to sit there in the depression, you're not going to sit there in the middle of the trial, but make your mind up no matter what the devil throws at you, no matter what God allows to come into your life, that you're still going to keep on singing, that you're still going to keep on shouting, and that you're still going to let God run your life. That Bible said to make a joyful noise. We're supposed to sing in our troubles that we're going on. We're supposed to make a joyful noise no matter what we're going through, no matter the problems of life that we're facing. Just make your mind up that you're going to stay faithful and keep on singing praise unto God. I've got to hurry. We see number one, your fellow Christians will get weaker. Number two, you'll get further from them who care. You'll get further from them who care. Verse number 5 with me. And Joab came into the house to the king and said, Thou hast shamed this day the faces of all thy servants, which as they have saved thy life, and all the lives of thy sons and of thy daughters, and the lives of thy wives, and the lives of thy concubines, and that thou lovest thine enemies, and hatest thy friends, for thou hast declared this day that thou regardest neither princes nor servants. For this day I perceive that if Absalom had lived, and all we had died this day, then it had pleased thee well. And then verse number 7, he tells them that we're going to leave if you don't get right. If you don't find joy, if you don't get happy about something, then we're going to leave and go find someone who actually has joy. And I hit on it earlier. There's been some people that I've had to do that to. I love them. Brother, I'll pray for you. I love you. If you need me, you've got my phone number, text me, call me, whatever. But I refuse to stay around you because all it is depression, and all it is bad, and all it is woe is me, and all it is how bad I have it in my life. And if you keep staying in that state that you're in, if you keep doing the stuff that you're doing around those people, I promise you, they will start separating themselves from you. Because like I said earlier, we all go through stuff. We all have problems. And our problems are a lot already on us. And the burdens we're bearing from you are already a lot. But you just keep piling more and more on more. Hey, instead of just piling it on us, how about you pile it on Jesus? How about you pile it on Him and let Him take care of the problems that you're going through in life? David is mourning for his son that hated God, hated David, and hated David's people. And David is mourning. And I know it's David's son. I know there's no love like a father or a mother's love for their child. I know what he's going through is a bad situation. But at some point, you got to get past the hump. You got to get past the problem, or it'll ruin you forever. And there's some people that are just stuck at the problem. There's some people that are just stuck and they can't move any further. They have a goal, but they're not willing to take their problem and their burden to an altar and give it to God and lay it there. Yes, the burden's still there, but it's God's, and they're not willing to give it to Him and let Him do something with it. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to give Him our burdens. We're supposed to bear each other's burdens, but we're also supposed to give our burdens to the Lord and let Him do something with it. If you continually live in a state of depression and being upset at everything, and there's absolutely no worship or praise in it, some people will start separating themselves from you. I've seen it. I've been in places in my own life where it just seemed like everything was bad and I didn't have no joy, and I started seeing people start separating themselves from me. My friends, they realized something was wrong, and every time they asked me if I was okay, I would say yeah, but in reality I wasn't. I just lied to them, and they realized that if they stayed around me, that they were gonna become weaker, like we just preached about, and that they had to separate from me. And when those people start separating from you, and when those people start leaving you because of where you've been, I promise you, you will start to feel alone. And you will start to feel lonely. And like I talked about earlier, that thing that you talked about because you were begging for attention, and the thing that you talked about that really wasn't the big problem that you made it out to be, what in reality, after they done left you, the devil will start coming into your mind and making you think that it's real. That's what will happen. They'll get further from them who care. There's just so many people who can't get past the problem in their life. They have an end goal. They have it in their mind to get to serve God. And they've got everything under control. And I'm not just talking about problems now. I'm talking about sin. They have a sin in their life. They've got drinking under control. Oh, it's wonderful. They've got drugs under control. Oh, they've been clean for years now. They've got the pornography under control. They're not lusting like they used to. They're doing good, Brother Zeke. They're doing fine. And they got it made. They're worshiping God and they're living for God. But there's just that one thing that is holding them back from letting God do something in their life. Whatever it may be someone's pride. It may be someone's pride holding them back. As a young preacher, I have to watch out for that. I have to watch out for that. Us young guys, they're all down in Texas right now, but Zeke and anyone else in here who's called to preach, we have to watch out for our pride. We have to watch out. I remember at youth camp, me and Brother John were talking to Brother Jason Sparks, and we were talking to him about, and I've been here whenever I'm writing a message, and whenever I'm writing a message, the Lord is preaching it to me in my heart before any of y'all get it. I'm getting pricked in my own spirit, and I'm sitting there writing it down, and I'm preaching it, not just to myself, but I'm preaching it in my mind and in my head, and it's coming back at me, and I'm getting a blessing out of it. I'm getting pricked at my heart, whatever it may be, and I'm thinking to myself, man, this is going to blow it out of the park. It's going to hit home. God's going to bless. There's going to be people standing up, shouting and worshiping everywhere. It's going to be wonderful, and I'll get up behind the pulpit, and I'll start preaching, and none of that happens. That's what'll happen because of my pride. Thinking that I'm the one doing it. Thinking that, I'm going to preach this a certain way and God's going to bless it. Absolutely not. How about you let God bless it and let God preach through you and let God do something through your heart and through your life. And I'll get up there and in my mind, I know what I want to say, but it just won't come out. And it just won't register with everybody. You say, why? Because the Lord won't let it. Because I know that it'd be a blessing. I know that people would stand up and shout if they would, but God says, it ain't happening now. Because you're not relying on me, you're relying on yourself. And I fear many Christians nowadays rely on their self more than they do God. They think we'll put God in the back seat, and whatever we'll do, God will bless. How about no? How about you let God do something, let Him bless His own doing so that God can do it for His glory and your good. Maybe it's the pride. I don't know. Maybe it's your pride. Whatever it may be in your heart, there's just that one thing that you just can't get past. That if you did, and it's holding you back. I mean, it's holding your coat. And if you would just let go of it and let God do something with it, I mean, you take off. And God would start blessing. God would start doing something. But some of y'all just got something that you just can't get past. You just can't get past it. And it's hindering you from your walk with God. I remember a couple years ago, me, Noah, and Zeke were all outside, and we're all on the trampoline, and we had been jumping, and we're hot and sweaty. It's in the middle of the summer, about this time of year, and it was hot. I mean, the sun had already started going down. It was behind the trees, but it was still warm out there. We just got done, and we're all just laying there on the trampoline, kind of just looking up. Because we're so tired, wanting water, but we're all too lazy to go inside and get some water. And then Zeke was on his stomach, and he said, "Hey, y'all, look, there's a rabbit over there." And it was just burrowing in the ground. It was digging for something. I don't know what it was doing. He said, and Zeke, he's sitting there, and he goes, "I'm gonna go catch it." Me and Noah said, "Zeke, don't just stay here. You ain't gonna catch the rabbit." He said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna catch the rabbit." There he goes. He takes off, and he's sneaking on the tree line. The rabbit's over there, and he's sneaking by the trees. And he gets about right here, and the rabbit's about at that wall right there, about where Zeke is actually. And he's walking, all of a sudden he stops. And me and Noah are laying there, and we're like, what is he doing? What is going on? Why did he just stop? What is he looking at? And I began to look, and the sunlight was just right, and from the distance we were at, I could see it. There was this big old spider that was right there in front of him, and he's just sitting there looking at it. Eyes were all big. And then Noah says, "Zeke, what are you doing?" And he looks, he goes, "There's a spider." There's a spider. I said, "Go around." And Noah was sitting there, and Noah said one of the most profound things that I think I've ever heard laying right there. I told him that I was going to use it in my preaching, and here it is. He was laying there, he said, "Zach," he said, "Zeke will never get to the rabbit if he doesn't go around the spider. He'll never get to the rabbit if he just stays there staring at the spider. He's going to have to go around it, forget about it. It's still there, but he's going to have to go around it so he can get in position to catch the rabbit." And I feel like so many of us have a rabbit we're trying to catch. That's burrowing in the ground. That's our end goal. I mean, if we got it, it would make us so happy. We'd be happy. We'd be happy, happy, happy. Like Phil Robertson says, we'd be just good. And we're trying to get to it. But all of a sudden, there's this one thing that's in our life. And some of us need to go around it so we can let God do something in our hearts. Now, I wouldn't just go around it. I'd take a flamethrower to it and burn it down, probably burn the woods down, start a forest fire, then I'd be in trouble. I hate spiders. But we just got to get some things out of our life so that we can keep on living for God. No matter what it is, there's some of us got that one thing that's in our heart. And if we just get by it, then God would bless and God would do something in our lives, but we're not willing to let that one thing go. Your fellow Christians will get weaker. You'll get further from them who care. Then lastly, I'm done. You'll be forgotten about and kicked to the curb. You'll be forgotten about and kicked to the curb. I'm not talking about church people here. I want to look at Joab here in another way real quick, and I'll be done. You'll be forgotten about and kicked to the curb. Verse number 7. Now therefore arise, go forth and speak comfortably unto thy servants, for I swear by the Lord, if thou go not forth, here it is, there will not tarry one with thee this night, and that will be worse unto thee than all the evil that befell thee from thy youth until now. Joab's going to leave David in the problem that he's in. Joab's going to up and leave. All the stuff that David has done for him. All the stuff that David has blessed him with. All the stuff that David has done for Joab. Joab says, I'm leaving if you don't get right. And I started thinking about that the other day. About how the devil will come to where we are. He'll wreak absolute havoc in our life. And he'll have the destruction there. We'll be laying in it, beat up, can't do nothing about it. And about that time, he's done destroyed everything. He's done took everything. He says, all right, I'm out. He's done did his job. He's done brought destruction and pain in your life, and he leaves. And I think about some people that whatever their sin might be in their heart, whether it be drugs, alcohol, liquor, women, men, whatever it may be, pride, envy, whatever it may be, fornication, I don't know, whatever it may be. I feel like there's just that one thing that's holding them back. And that the devil is using all of that. And it may not even be one thing. You might be in here lost. You might be in here lost and you don't know where you're going when you die. And the devil has wreaked havoc in your life. And about that time, he's going to say, peace out. All those friends that you were with, all those friends that you thought were friends, that when you woke up in a ditch somewhere and you woke up in an alley or you woke up in someone's bedroom that you didn't know you didn't know their name, where you were, or what had happened the night before, all those people are going to walk out. When you start going through trials in your life, those people that said they'd be there for you, whenever all hell broke loose in your life, all those people are going to walk out. And you'll be left there alone, and the devil will start coming in your mind. And after he's done wreaked havoc in your life, after he's done wreaked as soon as he's done wreaked destruction in your life, depression, whatever it may be, after the devil's done destroyed everything, that's when the devil comes in for the kill shot. He'll start putting minds or thoughts in your mind about suicide and going, and you might be in church going through something, and the devil has just wreaked havoc in your life, and the devil has started coming in your mind and saying that you need to leave church and go out into this world and party it up because what God has done for you just isn't enough. And the devil, I think one of the scariest portions of Scripture is when David is now first becoming king, and it said that Saul eyed him. That's what it said. And some of y'all, the devil is eyeing y'all. He's wreaked havoc in your life, and now he's left you there, and he's just walking around. He's just watching you. Wait for the right moment where he can take the final shot and put you out. I'll read you some facts here, then I'll be done. In 2022, there were 109,000 drug-related deaths in the United States, reported. Drug-reported deaths in the United States alone. 140,000 alcohol-related deaths, that's how many is annually reported in the United States alone. This makes alcohol the fourth leading preventable cause of death in the United States, right behind tobacco, a poor diet, physical inactivity, and illegal drugs. Speaking of tobacco, tobacco kills more than 8 million people each year, including 1.3 million who are exposed to secondhand smoke. I mean, we preach about marijuana and all this other stuff, but in reality, tobacco and nicotine and all the other stuff does even worse stuff. I'm not just going to hit on that. I'm going to talk about where we are as Baptists. 300,000 reported deaths are from obesity a year. Well, that's one we don't like to hit. We don't like to hit on gluttony. We don't like to hit on that. 30% of all web traffic, traffic in the internet or whatever you want to call it, are the pornography sites. I'll not go into detail, but the top 3 sites receive 5.81 billion web searches per month. That's 134,491 per minute. 70% are between the ages of 18 and 24. 15 are exposed before they were 10 years old. Here it is. Just under 50,000 reported Americans died by suicide in the U.S. alone last year. Amongst the age 15 to 24, suicide is the second leading cause of death. The second leading cause of death between people 15 to 24, I'm talking about my age group. The second leading cause of death is suicide. The devil has wreaked havoc in the minds of young people in today's age, thinking that no one loves them because they have, I left mine down there, but they have that device where they think that they have to go after something that's better and better and better, but they keep chasing, they keep missing it, and they can't have it, so the devil comes into their mind and says that you're not good enough. Nearly 20% of high school students report serious thoughts of suicide. And 9% of high school students, and it might not sound like a lot, but 9% of all the high school students in the United States, that's a lot of kids. 9% have made an attempt to take their own life. What the devil has done for 6,000 years now is he has wreaked havoc in this world. And now he has left people sitting all alone and thinking that no one loves them, and that nobody can do for them nothing can fulfill the void. They're discontented, like I just talked about. And then he comes to them and puts the thought in their mind. And it might not prosper at first, it might not. But eventually the thought will get through. And like the 9% that have, that's just young people. Not talking about the adults who go through the trials of life, unlike what the young people typically have to go through. And the devil comes and gives them the final kill shot. Miss Beaver, you mind coming to the piano real quick? I'm done right here. The man who was preaching whenever my dad got saved at a young age, his name was David Reaver. David Reaver was a Vietnam vet. I've used this illustration here before, but it'd be good to use it again for this message. David Reaver was a Vietnam vet through the Vietnam War, obviously. And David Reaver, he joined later on in the war, but they were still fighting overseas, and they were still fighting in Vietnam. And he was in a bunker at the time, and he was hiding down. I mean, bullets were raining in, and he was hiding from them. About that time, he pulled out this grenade to throw at the enemy, and when he did, he pulled it out, and as he was about to throw it, a stray bullet came and hit the grenade right by his face. Blew his hand off, it blew half his face off. His own testimony says that he looked across that bunker and saw himself looking back at him. David Reaver, at the time before he joined the military, he had just gotten married. I believe his wife was like 19, she's about my age. just got married, and as soon as he gets married, he runs off to the war to fight for his country. He goes through all that, and he survives it. But he's in one of these military medical. He's being treated by these nurses, and he's laying there, and there's this other guy in the room with him. I can't remember his name, but he's laying there. He's in a full body cast. He's laying there, and he's in a coma. He can't do nothing. About that time, the door opened up, and it was that other man's wife. And she walked over there, and she began to talk to him. And tears began to run down her face. And about that time, she was crying, she was weeping, and she took her ring off of her hand, laid it on his chest, and said, "Honey, I can't do it no more." She saw the problem facing that she was going to have to face, and she said, I can't do it no more. David, laying there, he thought to himself, man, my wife's going to walk. I mean, look at me. I'm blown apart. I'm not in a coma, but I mean, look at me. I'm disgusting looking. I'm missing my hand. My face is blown off. I mean, look at me. I'm in a mess. My wife's fixing to come and do the same exact thing. About that time, the door opened up. His wife walked in, but instead of a tone of judgment, and instead of a tone of, you're nasty, you're filthy, look at you, you're pathetic, you're a problem, I ain't dealing with you anymore, she began to sit there and talk to him sweet. Talk about how much she loved him and how much she cared for him and how much he meant to her. And he began to argue with her. He said, why in the world? Why are you still sitting here talking to me? He began to get mad at her. Why are you still here? Look at me. She looked down and she said, honey, I made a promise to you at our wedding altar that till death do us part, I would never leave you. And I would always be with you no matter what trials we go through in our life. She said, I will never leave you. And he got better and he got married, or he was already married, but he got saved and got called to preach, and God used him to preach to young people, and my dad got saved out of his ministry. And thinking of that, I thought to myself, how many times have people had the wrong spouse? And they come in and they go through problems and they take the ring off and leave them. When in reality, they could have a spouse that loves them, and that even until death do them part. They ain't leaving. They ain't separating. You getting closer to them whenever that day comes. And your life may be wreaking havoc, but you got a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. That'll never leave you nor forsake you. No matter the trials of life that you're going through, no matter the problems you're facing, you have a friend who loves you. You have a friend that sticketh closer than a brother that will always be there for you. You say, why? Because he made a promise to you on the cross of Calvary. That whenever he died for you, that he would come back for you. And that if you got born again, no man could pluck you out of his hand. No matter the problems of life that you go through, you have a friend that loves you. And David didn't just stay there. He made his mind up. I'm not staying in this. He got saved. And he used the problems of his past as a testimony to people nowadays. He got up, he sucked it up, and he kept on living for God. I wonder if that's you tonight. Let's all stand. If you need to come tonight, be a good time. Maybe you're going through trials in life. Maybe you're going through heartaches. God is there for you. How about you come lay your burden down on the altar? How about you give it to him? Hey, you got death in your family? You got sickness in your family? How about you come and give it to God and let him do something with it? You got sin in your life? You got something that's holding you back from worshiping and living for God? How about you come and give it to him? Go around the problem. Give it to him. Let God do something with it. Whatever it may be, how about you give it to him and let him do something with it? Father, thank you for this day. God, thank you for the good liberty to preach. God, thank you for this church where we can worship you and praise you. God, I pray for the invitation. God, I pray that you would help someone. God, I pray that the message has fallen on ears that were ready to hear it and receive it. And God, I pray that they would accept it. And God, I pray that you would bless the remainder of the service. Bless this invitation, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.